Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Washington, D.C. We are hanging out at ShiftHappens, and sitting next to me are Chris and Joe, who are also hanging out here at ShiftHappens. And gentlemen, what brings you to the conference?
Well, we're an IT solutions provider in this D.C. region. We do quite a bit of work with federal government customers as well as commercial customers around here. Most of our work is focused in and around the Microsoft Cloud platforms.
Okay.
And a lot of what's being talked about today in the conference is around Microsoft Cloud.
Gotcha.
Sure, and we've been an AppPoint partner for quite some time now, and we're pretty excited about this conference. I know it's the first year, but so far the content's been pretty amazing. I think it's a great content so far for leaders, for implementers, for IT pros. And it's been exciting to kick off.
If you just walked in here, you would not know that this is their first time running a conference. They have done, everything just seems to be working, knock on wood, for them. But questions for you, gentlemen. So obviously we're in Washington, D.C. There's a lot of government contracts and data around here. Can you guys just talk about that market and how you guys fit in and considerations that kind of just make that whole market a little bit different?
Sure. Well, at Xgility we specialize in collaboration and cloud solutions, enterprise collaboration cloud solutions. We have our customer base of about 50% federal, 50% commercial, so we work across the gamut. But as everybody's moving to the cloud, there's a lot of conversations going around adoption, around governance, around risk, around security, around information and records management, which is obviously very big in the federal government. And they have sessions here to address all of that, and they're even talking about it from a strategy level in the keynote, so it's been very interesting so far.
So question, how do you all fit into that narrative? Because there's a mindset out there that's like, I'll just give it to Microsoft, it'll be fine, I just put it in their cloud, it's all secure and whatnot, and I don't need to do anything. But anybody who's ever been around that segment long enough knows that's not really true. Like, they're good at hosting your stuff, but the onus is on you to make sure it's secure. So how do you all fit into that narrative?
I think there's more than just the security to it, too.
Sure.
A big piece of this is making it usable once it's out there. Right?
Yeah, very fair point.
So people can dump all their data out into the cloud, but if they don't know how to get to it, access it, govern it, apply security appropriately, it's going to become sort of useless, and at some point they'll have to try a new solution.
Yeah.
And so we have a long history of working with organizations, developing SharePoint solutions for them, helping them with information taxonomy, helping them with governance plans, helping them build large adoption initiatives in their organization to help increase the ROI of the technologies that they're buying. Okay. And so we combine these together in a very structured methodology that we bring to our clients that help them determine what to migrate to the cloud, when to migrate it, how to get it out there, and how to get the most use out of the information and technology once they actually get it out there.
Gotcha.
Sure, and I think we were very fortunate in the early days of SharePoint to deploy some of the largest SharePoint deployments in the country. Systems that had 150,000 users.
Oh, wow.
And when you do that, you have to learn different techniques of how to get people to adopt these technologies at a large scale.
Sure.
While that's important in SharePoint, it's also important in Teams, Yammer, all of the other parts of the Microsoft Office 365 cloud platforms. Yeah. And I think the big part that we look at this differently is we focus on the change management of how do you get these things adopted after you get everything to the cloud. Yeah. Getting to the cloud's one thing, but that's almost becoming a commodity these days. Yeah. But having people that have white glove, support services to help them use the technology and improve the productivity of their daily lives is just as important as getting the data to the cloud.
Yeah. One of the things we hear on the outside a lot, especially from Microsoft, is say 500,000 companies are using Teams and all that, which is, I don't discredit them. But what about on the government side? We don't hear much about how the federal government or even state-level governments are adopting Teams. What are you all seeing on that side?
It was interesting. I was just having a conversation with somebody from one of the largest state agents or government agencies here, in D.C., Department of State, and they were talking about very recent adoption of Teams within Department of State. And so I thought that was very interesting. Yeah. Now they're doing it in small departmental adoption activities, so it's not as broad across the whole enterprise as it probably should be. Yeah. However, we're beginning to see that become more and more a part of what these agencies are doing. And they're sort of I don't want to say abandoning, but they're trying to sunset some of the legacy tools and technologies they were using for collaboration in favor of something that they've already paid for and something they like using in Microsoft Teams.
Very, very interesting. A couple things jump out of my mind as you say that, is because we know the world, Microsoft ships a product. Microsoft would like to think that everyone's adopting that day one. There's some crazy people out there who probably do, and they probably all work at Microsoft, but the majority of people are lagged, right? And then there's the government, who's typically a little bit further behind. So the fact that the government, you're starting to see Teams adoption inside of that, is really speaking volumes to the product and application, and the words coming out of Microsoft saying, hey, it's the fastest adopted product in our history, really start to materialize.
We've been in a very fortunate space because we got in the early days of SharePoint, and I think it reached the $1 billion mark faster than any other product we've ever had. And the one thing I didn't anticipate, I thought government agencies would be a lot slower to start adopting Teams.
Yep.
And we are seeing so much interest around that space. The big thing about it, though, is you can adopt it, but now how do you govern it?
Sure.
How do you make sure everything's secure? How are you working with your records afterwards? And that's where we come into play.
Yeah, I think also, the adoption that's occurring right now with Teams, it's interesting. I think it's so easy to use that it's empowered the users so much that they feel like they can just jump into it with, both feet right away without needing a lot of sort of IT intervention.
Yeah.
That also creates the challenges that Chris was just mentioning.
Yeah, and there's also a cultural shift. I mean, people are used to using chat windows already and other things that I think the technology makes it simple to use, easier to get people into the product and adopting, but that's where the information management, governance, and all the other things come into play. Just because it's easy to use, you can end up with Teams everywhere if you're not careful.
And the one thing that I'm sure you gentlemen are very aware of, but everyone may not be, is that Teams is just built on top of SharePoint. So there was a funny thing that happened when they announced Teams, and a lot of SharePoint admins were like, and then they realized it was actually just running on SharePoint, and they're like, oh, everybody go use this, please, 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 because it's just built on top of the platform that a lot of people already know, just with a really user-friendly interface.
That's right.
Yeah, and then combining that with what came from Skype, right? Joining those together, we're beginning to see people adopt Teams voice at a pretty rapid clip now, which is a vast departure from, what they were used to in the past with these, real monolithic, phone systems that weren't very flexible. They were costly to handle and deal with and maintain. And now they're moving over to something like Teams Voice, and it's super simple, integrated with their daily work activities, and a lot less expensive.
Yeah.
It sounds crazy, but if you think about it, you have 20 people in a room, you walk into a room, you can hit a button, and your video conference call is going, and it's working over Teams, the technology that they're used to using. Saving everybody 15 minutes in the beginning of a meeting to get that meeting started that much quicker is unbelievable. And the cost of the hardware and the technology and tools you're using are a 15th of the cost of what it used to run these huge voice over IP telecom systems.
Yep, right. And it's going well when Microsoft is literally building a hardware product, their Surface Hubs, around the Teams platform. Their second generation when it comes out. Teams is a core focus of it. That's how successful it has been for the company. It's very, very interesting.
Dare we say this is a disruptive technology?
So it's interesting you bring this up. I wasn't sure if we would go down this route, but do you know who actually not built Teams, but picked Teams and pushed it through Microsoft?
No, I'm not
aware. Bill Gates.
Wow.
So there was a conversation. If you go back, you'll see rumors and write-ups about it that Microsoft was contemplating buying Slack. Because right at the time, Slack was this really hot thing. Slack is still fine. I'm not trying to dog on them. But Microsoft had a decision, right? Build your own thing or buy Slack. And so what Bill Gates did, he was consulted by Microsoft, I'm assuming Satya, and he identified 3 teams. It was like SharePoint team, the Skype team, and another team to build a product that was a Slack competitor. And then they demoed it in front of Bill Gates, and he basically got rid of one and combined Skype with SharePoint and said, go build that. And then that was Bill Gates' basically initiative was Teams. I mean,
wow.
So there's a little history for you about the backside of how that came about. But obviously, it's been a massive success for them. But gentlemen, if people want to find more about you or contact you, what's the best way to do that?
I'd say on the website probably is the easiest way, and that's xgility.com, xgility.com.
And we will include a link down below the video for all that good stuff. For everybody else who tuned in, thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll catch you right back here next time.